I mean, basically, I saw you guys had a conference in Vancouver and all that. It flashed my screen once, and okay, it's been crazy. Trying to get money in the till to keep the operations alive, and lots of moving parts, and very, very demanded board and all that.
Hello, welcome back everybody. SF Live episode 165, second episode today, and I'm joined by Nana Sangmuah. He's the president and CEO of Roscan Gold, and we'll get lots to talk about. Nana was on about 2 months ago, February 18th, and a lot has happened since then. They put out drill results, they bought more land, they've raised $15 million, they just announced a new VP exploration and a new CFO. So let's hope we can squeeze it all into our current format of about 20-25 minutes with him. And let's see what he can tell us about what is happening, and in Mali especially. So I'm quite curious to hear and get an update from him. Before we switch over to Nana, though, please be reminded to follow us on YouTube and follow us on Twitter. As you know, we do all our interviews live, so make sure to also turn on the bell notification as well. That way you do have an advantage by receiving push notifications on your screen, either on your computer or cell phone, and you can join us live, of course. Also, be reminded this is an interactive format. As you know, use hashtag AskROS, that's the company's ticker on the Toronto Stock Exchange, or use the YouTube chat as well to get your questions in during our live conversation with Nana. We already received quite a few questions beforehand, or a couple of questions actually beforehand, and of course we're going to get to those either throughout the conversation with Nana, or we're going to get to those at the end of the conversation, obviously. Now, without further ado, and I got to remember to unmute you, Nana, here. Alrighty, without further ado now, we have Nana Sangmuah joining us. Nana, good to see you again. It's been a while.
Thank you for having me back. It's really been a while, and I guess there's lots to talk about.
Oh, there is lots to talk about. Let's really dive right in, and I'm glad you're joining us. I think we should do it chronologically, right? As I said, you were last on February 18th. You just bought some concession at Candioli, but then you put out some drill results out early March. I think we'll start with the drill results. Just do it in chronological order.
Great. So I think basically, if I recall, there's lots that's gone on since. The drill results were the Mankuchi South results update, and then the Candioli as well in that sequence. And obviously, I think the expectation was to have something out in February. And we're drilling and compiling news flow, and we actually have to monitor the receptions out there in the marketplace. And February, as you can imagine, was one of the worst periods for the gold space. So we had quite a backlog to share, and we put them all out in a week in March. And Mankuki South results pointed to the fact that the zones are extending at depth. We're picking up some really good high grade, and I think we intercepted one of the widest zones in fresh rock to 2.36 grams per ton. and that highlighted the fact that we getting close to some sort of a feeder system, and all the good high grades out there could be a root source to it. And we continue to drill to find those root sources. By design, I mean, as the rainy season set in, we had to get most of our rigs on grounds that we could actually keep the supplies flowing. So we had only one rig at Mankuchi, but once the rain subsided, we mobilized an additional rig, and we have we should be expecting more news out of that zone in a little while. But what was more exciting about that update was the fact that we picked up another parallel zone, about 150 meters west of the main Mankuki footprint. And the initial grades that we hit was about 4.28 grams over 29 meters. And basically, we actually put in some more holes in and around that discovery hole. And it looks like we could be onto a new system there as well. So that's created another footprint that potentially could add incremental ounces in addition to what the street knows already on cookies.
So one thing that jumped out to me, of course, is and I highlighted it here because I was just showing the press release on the screen as well while you've been chatting, is really that you extended also vertical depth to 220 meters. And I told you when I first met you, it's been almost a year ago now or so, but that even for me as a non-geologist, it's very easy to understand your geology. You just have to drill deeper, right? So seeing that confirmation is extremely important. And of course, now my question is, how are you following up with that? And like, what are the next steps here?
So basically, as we have already intimated to the market that we have to get a resource out this year, targeting Q4. So we put in additional, like we actually mobilized a second rig to Mankuki South, and we're doing some deeper testing. So there should be some more results coming in and around these deep zones. And we also not losing sight of the low-hanging fruits, like this parallel system that we picked, which is almost mineralization near surface, that provides an ability to add ounces quicker without blowing your brains out on deep zones. And our target prioritization exercise that we did after the geophysics as building quite a number of these interesting targets all over the property boundary area. So those would also be followed up on in regard.
Yeah, I do have a couple follow-ups to that because, like, what is your average depth of drilling? And of course, we got to talk about you picked up more ground as well. And did your recent drilling lead to that? And B, the geophysics, of course. So, but let's start with average depth. Like, how deep are you planning to drill in general? And yeah, let's do that. Sorry.
Yeah, so basically we build in a resource here, so we just following up extensions of existing zones. So clearly, if we've had mineralization as deep as 220 vertical, we definitely chasing mineralization in and around that area, see how far it goes. But the simple way to look at Mankuki is sort of a big basin with a lot of good high grade mineralization near surface. And as we drill more, we see more extensions, particularly to the west. So a lot more of the drilling is sort of currently focused in and around that area, but we still poking holes in a few zones in the main Mankuki footprint area that we think needs to be tightened up for resource delineation. And we'll be happy to share that as well to the street.
Yeah. So to run us, like last time we spoke in February, you didn't really have a budget or a plan yet for drilling for this year. So run us through that as well. Like what's the idea now for 2021?
Yeah, so it's interesting. I mean, we raised money and we basically have some ideas as to what the money is going to be used for. But the bottom line is we spend money on this geophysics target generation exercise, and the results are back. And there's a lot of exciting targets all over the place. And we have to basically prioritize and set eyes on the low-hanging fruits that's going to give us a good initial maiden resource. So that exercise is currently being finalized by the technical team, and we will be sharing that to the street so that people would clearly know how many meters are going to be drilled and where. Because we've made about 6 discoveries in 14 months. All of them are exciting. Most of them could be company makers in their own right. We have to systematically go about moving them forward. And that's going to be eventually distilled into a resource triangle, which we should share to investors in the street in the coming weeks. I would say 4 to 6 weeks to be ready.
Okay. Let's run us a bit through the business plan, like in general. You've been talking about low hanging fruits, like what is actually the goal? Like I know we talked about turning this into $1 billion company, but like what are the steps? Like that's why like it was the video title for the last video we did, but because you said it, that's why I used it. But that's the goal. Like and I'm trying to get a grasp, like sort of on the story, so we can follow along to the to the $1 billion, right?
Yeah, so basically, I think that came up from the extrapolation of getting a total resource base close to about 4 million ounces over the life of the assets that we have. That could translate into half the valuation of what we see for a project like Fekola that has twice that amount. So that's how the premise of the valuation came about. So the question is, how do we get there? And basically, we think that we've established a lot of good targets on our property land package. And these are real targets. And as we drill them, we recognize the potential to expand on these. And the goal is to be able to pick more than a couple of them and build some good resources around that and be able to establish the grounds for putting some scoping or development studies around these projects into production. So that's where you can see the building blocks towards evaluation like that being harvested in the story. And I think once we're able to show that potential, it should not be really a stretch talking about a team that can actually deliver that sort of growth.
Yeah, and we're teams that delivers, and I'm as you notice, it's like I'm going a bit like left, right, but I'm trying to touch on a lot of points as well. You mentioned team that can deliver, so that brings me actually a bit to today's press release as well. You made some senior management changes. You added a new CFO, but also a VP exploration at this stage. Like, what kind of expertise does the new VP, Mr. Pascal van Oosten, bring to the table now at this stage? And why are you feeling the need to make a change?
Well, I mean, basically, Pascal has been with us for a few weeks, and he came highly recommended from the old exploration manager who was basically getting up there and really wanting to take a bit of a breather of the project. So Pascal is going to be full time in Bamako. In country with a wife, and Pascal was actually the exploration manager for Comet. That's the Kabaya project that we acquired. So he already arrives with some intimate knowledge about some of the grounds we are working on. And for the stage of development that we are in, resource development, he introduces a lot of skill to the team, the wireframing, geological modeling as we transition into building resource around our targets, and the targets are growing. So I think it was a good transition to have at the stage, and we've seen him come in and fit in pretty much seamlessly amongst the team, with a lot of the geologists of the ground actually having had him as mentors in certain periods of his career, because he was involved with the Morella discovery, worked with Roscan, worked with Endeavour, so rich West African experience, and is a really critical piece at the stage of the company's evolution. And the other addition, the CFO, is also quite critical. He's had quite a lot of experience with other junior mining companies that have transitioned into production and construction, and has been got experience in debt finance. And so it's just putting the building blocks together so that once we need a certain skill set at this stage, we just don't find ourselves lacking.
Fantastic! Like this is really like my mind is racing. Like I'm thinking about all the possibilities and next steps for your company as well. Because it sounds you're getting really serious about your projects. You're not just poking holes anymore. It's you're thinking about the next steps already, and that's really interesting to see and hear as well. Of course, right? And as part of that, I think that sort of fits into your narrative as well. You did an overnight marketed offering, which is not too common in our sector, in the junior mining sector. Like, why did you go down that route? And like, how was it perceived? How did the conversations go? And of course, like, did you get any new shareholders in that we didn't know about before?
Yeah, I mean, it was a very well subscribed deal, and there were cutbacks. And basically, the rationale for getting a transaction done was what kept us awake was being able to show all these prospective targets out of the geophysics and running out of money to go drill test them. So that's something that we had always front and center. And when we had some good lead orders to get a transaction through, in an environment where the gold market was still choppy, we decided to use that route, that it was a prospector's offering, which was well scrutinized by the exchange. And I think it puts us in a different ball bracket right now. And a lot of people can have deep comfort with what we're doing because there are lots of full disclosures out there for um, their eyes.
Why did you choose an overnight public marketed offering versus a bought deal or even just regular broker placement? Just curious, my end.
Well, I mean, basically, there were lots of potential offers that we could have gone through, but I feel that at the end of the day, choosing this option really served its purpose. Um, we were able to get a transaction done at a price where the stock has never traded to. So it was a matter of listening to the various advisors that we were working with. And I think it's been one of the very well talked about transactions on the street. So kudos to all the brokers that were involved in the process.
I saw Venkat bought some more shares in the market, or bought some shares. I think it was part of the financing. Any other names that came into the placement that you care to share with us?
I mean, basically, we had a lot of support. I don't know whether I can basically divulge all those names out here on this forum, but we're happy to see some of our existing shareholders pony up and actually put a lot more money to work, showing the confidence they have in the team. And we're also happy to welcome some new institutions that clearly see the path of execution and probably some returns ahead of the curve. So it was a really well supported transaction, and we're happy that we've had it all done and dusted, and we can go execute the business of the company, which points to the potential for continuing to prime the pump with tons of on all these targets that we have.
Like right after you announced the closing of the financing, you announced the purchase of some more land as well. You bought 55 more square kilometers of land, just northeast, just about no, not even 2 kilometers northeast of Fekola. Right? Run us with the deal terms. Like, what did you see? Why did you get that land? And maybe some more of the reasoning behind it.
Yeah, I mean, basically, that region in general is home to a lot of tier one discoveries, and increasing your exposure to land in that district is probably a lot of it's a puts you in a good strategic position to be able to come up with some of those tier one discoveries that we've seen. This was quite exciting to us because we've always been talking about our excitement in our own first order structure with all the space that comes from it. With this acquisition, we've actually tied ourselves to the other first order structure. So having sort of the best of both worlds eat from, and I think it enhances the exploration upside potential a great deal here. And we note some splay structures coming from SMZ on the ground. So I think it was a good strategic acquisition. And when we saw it was available to pick, we definitely jumped in and put that in the bag.
Okay, just curious, like since it's in such a pristine area, or sorry, not pristine area, it's like a prestigious area. Sorry, that's the word I was looking for. Like, what were the terms of the acquisition? What did you have to give up to get it?
Well, I mean, basically, it's an option agreement with the local owners, and it cost us a bit more than our usual agreements that we have with similar option parties in the region. But as usual, you're supposed to commit to some work commitment on the ground to be able to earn your full 100% interest. And we had to exchange some amount of shares as well for that. I think it was totally worth whatever we spent.
Did you fly geophysics over it? Did you take a look at it before you bought it?
Well, we have access to the system geophysics.
Yeah.
That is something that almost every party there has access to. So it shows display features that run through it. And obviously, most of those features have some level of artisanal activity on. So it's not unlike any of the prolific grounds that we've picked up in the past. And it's definitely going to be something that it gets put into our prioritization exercise program to evolve a program that we can get on to.
Okay, sounds good. Sounds good. Okay, I mentioned Bito Gold. I mentioned Facola. They had some trouble, or not trouble. Sorry, that's the wrong word. They ran into permitting issues, right? And they got the permit denied for one of their exploration grounds next to the Facola mine. And I'm just curious, like, what's the permitting situation? Maybe you can shed some more light on it, as we just found out, like, one of your properties is only, or not even 2 kilometers away. Like, will you have to be facing similar issues? Like, I just want to make sure that that permitting risk is taken care of on your end, right?
Yeah, I mean, basically, I don't know the full details of what transpired out there. And what I can say is all our permits are in good standing. You're supposed to have the exploration permits for about 3 years. You can renew it twice. And after that, you have to move the project forward into a development or production stage to keep those in good standing. So, I think so far we clearly in good standing on all our permits. We have good relationships with the DNGM, and I think we should be able to maintain those relationships and maintain the good standing of our permits as we stick to the letter of the mining code. That's something that we respect.
Okay. I have a table here from the MD&A that was published at the end of January, and it says Candiole North is still pending, and Segundo South is still pending permit renewal date. Is that all taken care of? I can't remember if I've seen a press release or not for it.
Well, I mean, basically, we've honored all the commitments to earn the 100% interest in.
Okay.
So once you do that, the permit has to be cancelled and reissued in the name of Roscan, and that's what possess. And I think we should be done with that in the.
Fantastic. All right, perfect. We can wrap that topic up. We're done with trip permits. All good. And no worries there, which is good to hear. We haven't seen any drill results, though, in the last few while. Like, where are we at with that, Nana?
Well, we're drilling away. The drills are still 10. We've got 6 rigs. We can't hide that. So clearly, there should be results coming. And I think most of the housekeeping items have been completed with the financing out of the way, the senior management appointments, the land acquisition. So it's fair to say that the next set of news will probably be likely drill results in the coming weeks. Got lots on the go.
Okay, fantastic. All right. Where can we expect first results from? What's up first?
It's basically it's a juggling game, but I think all the places we are drilling right now are really coming up with some interesting outcomes. So we like what's going on in southern Mankuchi, the new zone that we basically picked up, which could be another leg of growth resources in on that tenement. We also would be commencing drilling on Mankuki West permit, which we picked up very soon. So there's lots moving all over the place, and I think we should be seeing lots of news flow leading to our resource update that we target for the end of the year.
Gotcha. Let's switch over to Twitter real quick because we got one question in there that requires also some graphics. And that is from our friend Mining Book Guy. I'm sure you're not surprised. But it's a question on, can Nana comment further on the inferred regional breaks seen on the map in the recent press release and where they overlooked in the past? He says one goes through Bantanco East and many more go through other Roscan properties. See map below. So let me click on that. Oh, wait, I got to click here to have that full view of it. So, okay, yeah.
Yeah, so I can see the map, but I can go from memory and talk to the breaks that I'm aware of. I know there's a good break that runs right from Bantanco east right into Tabacoto, which is a sort of north of 4 million ounce deposit at I think 3 grams at the time it was found. And we've got another splay structure that's coming right through from the SMZ, right through Bantanco down to the south. So with these kind of breaks going through the permit area, it increases our confidence that we could be onto something there. And clearly, we've got a team that can systematically go through the exploration. So we should be getting some preliminary work done there. I don't know of any significant historical work that's been done to piggyback on, but that's clearly where the opportunity is. So most of our discoveries that we found has been on really where nobody had done anything. So we'll cross our fingers and see what comes out of it.
Very, very good. It's like really exciting. I'm just looking at the map myself, and I'm just wondering. Like you picked up a lot of ground recently. It's like, are you interested in buying any more ground? Like, or do you have your hands full now? He's like, nope, that's it. Like, unless of course, the direct neighbor of Facola becomes available, of course. Or
Well, I mean, I think it's really a prospective region, and we constantly on the lookout for gaps and spaces, anything contiguous that could add to the exploration upside potential. And so it wouldn't never give up looking. It clearly would have to be something that adds to the current existing package. And we sort of figured out we've picked up quite a good geological intelligence base to see where structures are running. And if we find anything that falls on any of those, we definitely would put our hands up and try and add that to the till.
yeah, no, that's great, and that makes, of course, a lot of sense to be opportunistic in that regard. So like we sort of touched on everything that's happened in the last 2 months. So let's look forward a bit. We have drill results coming. That's going to be the most dominant news flow, like the most dominant news flow items. Am I missing anything? Like just trying to wrap this up and put a bow around it.
Yeah, I mean, basically, we would have lots of news flow. We drilling on multiple targets. We should be sharing our prioritization work to the street, so that they would know where the focus is and they can follow along with us when we pop up news in any other target, so that they know where it falls in the big plans. I mean, space where it falls in the broader package. And it's going to be newsy for sure. Lots of drill results to come through. I think a lot of the housekeeping stuff is behind us. So we should start showing people why we're excited about the land that we've put together. Um, we point people in the direction of where this whole thing could eventually end up being.
Great. And now that the street has been paid, I'm sure we'll see some more research coming out as well.
Yeah, that's always something to hope for. I think the year began with 4 reports already on brokers, and I know there are a few that are still percolating. And I think that's a very helpful part of the scheme of things because it's good for people to hear from me what I think how beautiful my baby is. But once you have the independent guys going through and talking it the way they see it, it sort of accentuates the potential
Exactly.
and following along. So
Nana, it was fantastic catching up with you. It was great having you back on NSF Live. Really, really appreciate it. Can't wait to see more coming out, of course, out of the results. And this is just progressing so nicely. I'm excited for you. And of course, for myself, because you are a client of ours, so you make us look good. But we also own shares and options in the company. So we're really excited that things are progressing in the right direction. So I'm glad to be working with you along the way there. And thanks for coming on SF Live. Really appreciate it.
appreciate the support and the continued interest, and looking forward to a very prosperous 2021 for all of us.
Fantastic. So, everybody else, thanks for tuning in. This was SF Live episode 165 with Nana Sangmuah. He's the president and CEO of Roscan Gold, and he's still on track of becoming $1 billion company. So, I'm quite excited to see where the next months take us. And, of course, he promised us some drill results, and we will be taking a look at those, of course, very closely as well. Follow us on YouTube, follow us on Twitter, turn on the bell notification as well. That way, you get notified when we go live with another update. As you know, all the interviews are live. That way you do have a certain advantage over viewers that just watch the replay. So make sure to use that. And we'll be back at 1:30 actually with Maritime Resources to talk about the closing of the Rambler deal today.